You are now tuned in to Unorthodox Gypsy, the podcast that delves into what makes people tick, live life through other people's experiences. Anyone, anywhere, anything.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unorthodox Gypsy. I have Shaylyn here today as our guest, and we're just going to be talking about life and some struggles and how we overcome them. I mean, you're pretty much a gangster with all that shit, so I thought it would be really great to have you on the show and talk about how you've overcome things. And I mean, you're running your own show now.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So what's your story?
My name's Shaylyn St. Peter Chavez, married now, so my last name changed, obviously.
You want to add any more names in there?
No, none that I want to say out loud. And I got 3 kids, so I have a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old and a soon-to-be 17-year-old stepdaughter.
Whew.
Yeah.
Teenage years. How's that treating you?
It's rough. It's definitely a battle to know the right path to take. I'm a young parent, obviously. I had my daughter when I was 15, so it's always been a struggle to kind of navigate the right things versus the wrong things. Parenting, obviously, everybody knows doesn't come with a handbook, but doing it young and broke and stupid is a little bit harder than, people who waited, like you guys, waited till a better time in your life to have kids where you're a little bit more established. So my daughters have kind of grown with me.
Yeah.
As Tyson didn't really have to see the struggle that the girls did. But I have a cleaning business that I've had for the last 6 years now. That keeps me busy.
Yeah, I'd say. I'm pretty sure you're like working all the time. Like every time we talk to you, you're working.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends. I mean, it just depends on how much money I need to make, how much money I want to make, really. But it keeps me busy and pays fairly well. I mean, I'm obviously able to provide for my family with it, so.
Which, I mean, I got to say, like, you've done, even though you're married, you've done pretty much all of this on your own.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
From day one.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, the hardest part about parenting. I mean, just the hardest part about having a kid at 15. Like, obviously all of it's hard, but what was the hardest part, do you think, about being able to do it? And, like, whoa, the cat is escaping.
They got out.
For everyone who is not watching, Shaylyn's cats, I should say, are escape artists, and they just broke the handle off of the doorknob.
They really want out. That is the only room I can put them in, too, because the other rooms have carpet, so they'll tear it up. Justin's got it, though.
Yeah, he's a handyman. He's like, I was waiting for this opportunity to fix it.
I didn't do it right.
So, yeah, like, what was the hardest part about becoming a mom so young, do you think?
Obviously just not having a childhood. I just grew up really fast. Seeing, I'd be working at Dairy Queen, and I'd see everybody come in after football games, and, like, all my friends that I went to school with, and people that I thought were my friends, but obviously once I had a kid and stopped going to school, I just fell off to them, basically. So trying to balance that, I mean, my childhood wasn't like a normal person's childhood. Like, I didn't play sports. We never went on vacation. We didn't do any family outings. So, like, the things I just drank and smoked weed. Like, that's what I did when I was a kid. So, trying to balance that and still be a parent was a struggle. But in my mind, I always thought I was doing okay, because even though I was drinking and smoking, like, I was still going to work, and I still bought my daughter everything she wanted and took care of her, and whatnot, but obviously looking back at it, I made a lot of mistakes, but just trying to, I can't even imagine my daughter having a baby right now, and she's 15. Like, it's mind-blowing to think that I was that age with a baby.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. She wouldn't know what to do, but I've also, she's much more sheltered than I was, so that plays into it too.
So, and I've thought about that too. Like, even when I did have kids, like, I was just like, oh my God, like, I'm so unprepared. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't even imagine if I had, kids earlier, because I miscarried, like, when I was 18, and it was a super traumatic, shitty situation. But I can't, like, when I finally had a baby, I was like, oh, now I gotta take care of this thing. What am I supposed to do? And it was a very scary, traumatic experience. I mean, I loved her to death, obviously, but I was, like, so scared to fuck her up.
Yeah.
Did you have that same feeling?
Yeah, I always just told myself that I would be better than my parents. And, I mean, I give myself credit that I know I've done better than my parents have. And I also have a 16-year-old brother, so I had a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
Before Chandler was born, because I was basically taking care of my little brother. So I learned how to change diapers. I figured out that babies aren't glass, because I had him kind of to learn on, and then I had her. So it definitely helped that I had my little brother who I took care of. So it was a little bit easier, but at the same time, I just, always told myself I wouldn't do the things around my kids that my parents did. So
yeah, try to fuck them up a little bit less than we were, that's the...
Exactly. I definitely haven't been perfect, and I don't think any parent can say they have been. Like, we all have our struggles, but I know for a fact I've done better. I've broken that cycle of, partying with your kids and drinking and buying them drugs and taking them to trap houses and stuff like that. Like, I've never done that with my kids.
And I'd imagine you never would.
No, not in a million years.
See, and that's bizarre to me. Like, I just don't understand how some people, like, get to that point. Like, I don't understand how that happens. But, so obviously you were able to come out of that. Like, what kept you going? Like, what made you pursue to go farther and not fall into the trap of, like just giving up?
Just my daughter. Chandra's always been my number one. She's been my priority, even when I've struggled through addiction and everything that I've struggled through. She's always still been my priority. I'm not an addict who loses. I mean, I might be worse in a sense because people don't know I need help, because I am able to function so well.
Right.
So even with drug use or alcoholism, I always went to work. I always still took my kids to do things. I always made sure they had everything they wanted. So I was able to function a lot better than most, let's say. But yeah, she was always my reason for trying to do better.
Well, it obviously worked. Like, did you ever have a pitfall point where, it just stopped working that way?
Oh yeah, well, with dealing with like the custody stuff that I've had to go through, there was multiple times that I was just defeated. Excuse me. Because I didn't have money.
Yeah.
So in the court system, unfortunately, like, the winner is who has the money, and that's just what it is with legal or, personal issues. And so there was a few times that I just had to bite my tongue and just tell myself it'll be different eventually, and I just have to keep working towards my ultimate goal. Yeah, I definitely had times where I thought, like, shit's never gonna get better.
Yeah. So, you and I have similar stories. Obviously, yours is very different in certain ways, but like we both had our husbands in prison while we had babies, and so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Michael got locked up a month before I had Tyson. So I was 8 months pregnant with him. Tyson was planned, but we didn't think that he was going to get as much time as he got. He kind of screwed himself over, and it ended up being that, but so that was hard. But with Chandra, I was by myself too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know that
the cats, they're causing havoc on this.
when we're done, I'll lock them in better. I'll figure it out. But it was hard because with Chandra, I was by myself, but me and her dad weren't together. So it wasn't like I wanted him to be there, but he didn't feel comfortable. So, I mean, I just had my mom there with me. But with Tyson, it was a little harder because I like really wanted him to be there. And then...
Did you feel betrayed? Or
yeah,
angry?
I mean, after he flopped his rider, I did. Initially, I didn't, because I was like, this shit happened before we got pregnant. Like, I knew he was going to have some kind of consequence, but he turned a 6-month rider into 3 years.
Yeah.
So after that, I did, yeah. But, like, at the time, he was doing RDU, and, like, I couldn't even talk to him. They put him in blackout for 30 days where they can't talk to anybody, and he had just started it the day I went into labor.
Oh, no.
So all I could do was call the prison, and I was like, just let him know that his son's healthy, like, I'm all right, and everything's good, and I could just wait. I had to wait 30 days, and I literally took pictures of everything and sent him letters every single day. I didn't have a car. Like, I was so broke, and I would walk to Walmart and print pictures off and send them to him, just trying to... I just didn't want him to not know his son. I'm a felon, so I wasn't able to go visit him. His dad was able to take Tyson after we got all the, as you know, the documentation to get it done. It's like a process. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I think Tyson was like 4 months old when he met him, and his dad was able to take him, and that like really broke my heart. I really wanted to be there for that. But after writing, I literally wrote a letter to the dean, or what would you call it? The dean, the warden of the prison, every day for like 6 months until they finally let me go see him. And they were like, finally someone called me and was like, okay, like, stop sending us letters. And if your PO says it's okay, you can come. And I was like, okay, sweet. So my PO said it was okay. So I was able to see him after, I think he'd been gone around a year at that point. And then I would take Tyson there every single weekend to see him. So even though he was gone, I mean, Tyson still knew who he was. But yeah, that was definitely hard.
What was your driving force of sticking through that?
I am just a loyal person, I think. Like, I loved Mike with all my heart. So I knew that I never had like a doubt in my mind that I didn't want to be with him. You know, like I never thought like, oh, I'm not going to be with him if he, like when he messed up, I never thought like I'm going to leave. I just always have stuck by him, and that's just who I am. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I can relate to that too. I mean, so do you feel like there's like anything he could have done that would have like lost your loyalty during all of that?
Probably not. I mean,
It was just pure love.
yeah, he gave me every reason to leave. So, yeah, I mean, it was the only time that we had to separate was when he jeopardized my time with my daughter. So I guess that's the only thing. If he was to jeopardize my relationship with my kids, then if I would have to leave, I'd have to leave.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty powerful in itself. But on the same token, like I understand and I can relate, because I feel like Justin gave me every reason to, and yet here we are. So, all right, you've mentioned, you're a felon briefly, so you have your own like things that you had to go through, and obviously your own battles with like basically the courts, you versus someone else who, I don't know if they're a felon or not.
No.
They didn't have a record, so that's pretty much the main reason why you didn't have your daughter this whole time.
Yeah.
And how long was that?
So when I got her taken away, she was 4 years old. And I took him to court 5 different times until the 5th time I finally saved up $5,000 to get a lawyer. And that was the changing point in it. Every time before that, I did not have a lawyer, and I represented myself. I did my own paperwork. I just did everything on my own, and he married somebody who has money. So they were able to get a lawyer every single time, and every single time they drowned me in paperwork that I did not know how to do. And on top of that, they would just diminish my character to the point where I almost started to believe, like, maybe I don't deserve my kid. Like, maybe I am, like, this big piece of shit. Just because it's hard. When you're in that kind of setting, like, you can say what you think you might do, but until you're actually in a courtroom and you're sitting there by yourself and they're just saying all these terrible things about you, and if you haven't filed the proper documentation, you can't even defend yourself.
Right.
Like, it was just really hard. And so I didn't have her. I had visitation, but my visitation was very limited, and I was never granted any kind of leniency, like never able to take her for an extra hour, never able to pick her up early. Just what was on the paperwork is the only time I got. Like, I literally was not able to have her any extra time whatsoever for any reason. So that's the reason I kept going back to court, was because her dad and I had no communication whatsoever. He refused to speak to me, and it was only his wife who would communicate back and forth, and unfortunately we just never had a great relationship. She didn't really grow up the same way we did, and she's just very privileged. And so this last time, like I said, I got a lawyer and I did a parenting evaluation, and that is what got me my daughter, basically. If it wasn't for that parenting evaluation, I don't know if anything would have ever changed. They would have kept her for as long as they could have from me. But the parenting evaluation is basically like you pay this expert X amount of dollars. For us, it was we each had to pay $5,000. And she interviews us. She interviews the child. She came to my house and watched me with my kids. She went to the other house and watched Chandra with her other family. And then also like looked into my history, like my substance abuse history and my criminal, all that stuff. And her end result was she thought that Chandra should be with me part-time. So basically the judge is going to go with what she says. So that's why I was able to get 50-50 custody of her when I did.
Has that changed, or is it still 50-50?
No, it's still 50-50. So I just have her week on, week off. And our relationship has gotten better, but it was just because it's forced.
Right.
I mean, he has to talk to me now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why.
But at least you guys aren't like fighting or...
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, at least for your daughter's sake, you know, because I've been on the receiving end of parents who just do not co-parent at all, and it's a mess.
Oh, yeah. And I tried so hard to co-parent with him. Like, I tried so hard, but he just refused. He refused to talk to me. And I never wanted our relationship to be like that, but that's just unfortunately how it ended up. And a lot of it was just because he really hated Mike. And it stemmed from anger from that. And yeah, it was just unfortunate that it took so many years to finally like just be cordial. But
so let's talk a little bit more about your glow up is what I'm going to call it. It's because like you kind of really just had like a turning point in your life where everything got a lot better, at least from the outside looking in. It just, I mean, things started coming together, and I mean, your career started taking off. I mean, you took off your career, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like it was just a very slow process. I mean, starting from when I got out of prison, I lived in a shack. I lived in a garage apartment, and then slowly but surely I lived there for a couple years, moved into some housing projects on the north side, lived there, and living there gave me the opportunity to start my business. Because my rent was so cheap, I could actually, not have to work a crazy amount to pay my bills. I was able to slowly start building clientele while I lived there. And so I slowly started doing that. And then we moved into a nicer house in Napa, and that was nice for a while. And then, yeah, it just has gone up. Yeah. Every house I've been in has gone up since then, and it's just been like a gradual being able to, I guess, be an adult the right way. I didn't, when I was living in that garage, I didn't know what credit was. I didn't know, I never had a car. I never had like a credit card. Like I was just working. I worked for my aunt cleaning houses, and I learned a lot from her. And then it just kind of became that I was doing her job. So I was like, why don't I just do this by myself and reap all the benefits?
Right.
Like I'm doing the schedule. I'm training employees. I'm interacting with the customers, and she's literally doing nothing. So why don't I just do this by myself? And yeah, it was just gradually growing. It's been like 7 years now, 6 or 7 years, and my clientele is just like mostly word of mouth. It's been really nice having just so many like loyal customers who spread my name out there that I don't really even have to advertise. And I mean, I've just been able to save money and, like I said, give my kids what they need and what they want, and obviously get stuff for myself also, which is nice. Because, like, in drug addiction, I never was able to save money.
Yeah.
But then I was able to, and I was like, wow, we can have nice things. Like, this is cool. We can actually buy cool stuff.
So, I mean, other than drinking, you've been sober for a while now.
Yeah, it's been at least 3 or 4 years. 4 years, I want to say. Might even be more than that. Because that almond house, I was clean. I've been here for 2 years. Yeah, it's probably like 4 years.
That's great.
So I've been clean off of opiates. Yeah, methadone definitely saved my life. Advocate for that for anybody who is struggling with addiction, for sure. I know that I had a lot of criticism for it, and a lot of people can abuse methadone, and it definitely can be a crutch. But for me, like, I'll be on methadone for the rest of my life.
So, well, I feel like it really takes, like, a certain person, because, like you said, some people abuse it. So it's just like, but
it just depends on how you want to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your personal choice. And I've gotten a lot of shit from people telling me, like, well, you're not sober, you take methadone. But I mean, I'd rather, if you wanted to call me a methadone junkie, I'd rather be that than an opiate junkie. So, I mean, I'll take that any day. Whatever, like, you can pass judgment on me, but I'm where I'm at, and it shows, so I don't really feel like I have to defend myself too much. Like, I've seen people take methadone and straight just nod out and get super fucked up off of it. But that's never been my goal. Like, I don't take that much. I take enough just to feel normal, and I know that I tried getting off methadone, and my cravings were so intense that I just knew it wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
And there's people who go there forever, and there's people who are able to taper off and not have to stay there, and I know I'm not one of those people.
Well, one thing that I've noticed just from talking to you is, like, you haven't squandered any opportunities that you've been given. Like, any skill that has came across you, like, you have utilized and, like, turned into gold, per se. And, like, you haven't let every struggle break you down or become an excuse, which I think is very inspirational and something you should definitely pat yourself on the back for, because that is not a common trait at all for this world. You. And so anyone who's listening or watching, I feel like that's a message you need to take from this podcast, because, like, it's real. It can be done. I mean, she's living proof. So
yeah, anybody who struggles, like, it's definitely possible. And I really hate excuses. I've never been handed anything. So, like, I think that plays a big part into people's character. If you are constantly being coddled and, you know, being handed things,
or being bailed out.
Yeah, you won't fight as hard.
Yeah.
Essentially. I mean, I always knew whatever I wanted, I was going to have to get it myself.
Yeah. And, I mean, I might be overstepping here, but, like, you wanted to get it yourself. Yeah. You didn't want someone else to do it for you.
No, I would never want to ask anybody I don't like asking people for help, period.
And not that there's anything wrong with, you know, getting help from other people, but, like,
Yeah, but to an extent, like, some people take advantage of people's kindness.
Yes.
And some people are definitely the type of person who will squeeze you dry if you let them, and that's, like, another boundary that's hard for me to set with people I love, like, just because I am so giving to people who I care about. it's like a fine line to walk, kind of.
Yeah, I can hear you there. But I find it so interesting because every generous person that I know are usually the ones who have literally been stepped on or had to be dragged through mud. And it's never the ones who, actually have something to give.
Yeah.
Like it's always the people who literally have nothing left that are giving.
They're giving the crumbs.
Yeah.
That they have.
Like, I don't have much, but here's my bones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty great. So yeah, no, I mean, we're kind of trying to do a short and sweet show because there's a lot going on. I mean, they're literally setting up for a party in the background, setting up lights and sound system and all this stuff because there's a fun birthday party getting ready to happen. But I wanted to try to squeeze this one in, well, since we were here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm gonna kind of taper this one off, and I just wanted to get a couple more questions in. So, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
Well, my kids will be basically grown. I would very much like to travel with my husband and just not be tied down here anymore. I've had to be tied down here because I have to share custody. Not that I don't love, the Boise area. It's just that it's not what it used to be, and I would never buy a home here. Like I said, my kids are grown. Almost in the next 10 years, they'll be out of the house, and yeah, I'll just have to figure out who I am if I'm not a mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you'll actually have to do shit that, makes you happy and fuel you with joy.
Exactly.
That's going to be a fun transition for you, I think.
Yeah. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
Very.
Well, I mean, we travel all the time, so hopefully we're all traveling together doing fun shit.
That would be awesome. That's goals right there.
Yes. And then the last thing, I mean, I know what my word would be for you, but what is one word you would use to describe yourself?
Strong.
I think that definitely fits. I was going to say unbreakable.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely feel like that's probably good.
Yeah. It's a good one. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've learned a lot about what you can achieve no matter what happens, whatever struggles you're going through, especially big ones, because it's not like the shit you went through was small.
Yeah.
And I hope you learned a little bit more about yourself too, just like, I mean, some self-reflection.
For sure. Yeah.
Some
Definitely.
introspection. So anyway, yeah, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
See you next time.